Greetings from Just Car People Things. Mike here today. We are doing some work on our 2004 Toyota Tundra project truck. It's a little bit of a project for us. We bought it around the corner from our house, and we saw it and we're like, man, that would be really great to have. Nice handy pickup truck. Do some cool stuff with it. Today we're going to do a little bit of clay barring. I noticed when I was washing the vehicle, we did kind of a tear down wash on it. One thing I noticed was there's a lot of contaminants in the paint. We're going to try to avoid, there's a lot of stone chips. We're going to fix those. We got some paint coming in the mail for that. But one thing I noticed when I was working on it, and you guys might too, but I noticed it just had a lot of contamination in it. So we're going to set that there. If you take your hand, you can probably, hopefully you can hear that, just how rough that sounds. Well, I just clay barred a stretch here a few minutes ago. Now you can't hear that anymore, right there. So before, after. And what's happened is this clay has, you can see a little bit of the residue there, has picked up those contaminants. And a clay bar will remove embedded things from the paint, like I noticed some rail dust. What clay bar will not do is polish your paint. So these swirl marks and scratches you're seeing in the haloing, that is something that is not going to get fixed by this method. But one thing, another tip, trick I'll give you, it's a little bit cooler here today, so you want the clay to be a little more pliable. So I actually put some warm water in our spray bottle. This is not spray detailer. You can absolutely use spray detailer to get that lubricity that you need to kind of, you know, glide the, oh, a little too much there. This is a new spray bottle. There we go. So what you need is lubricity to be able to glide the clay over the surface. And spray detailer is about $25 to $30 a gallon. Even on gallon scales, it's 25 or 30 bucks. Car wash soap, on the other hand, is also $25 or $35 a gallon, but can be diluted 20 to 1. So this is 20 gallons of car wash soap versus 1 gallon for the same exact price. So what I would suggest is actually go through, fill a bottle with some warm soapier water. So put a little car wash in there, fill up with the rest of warm water, and then you can come in and you can just completely soak down a panel on the vehicle and you can clay bar it. So this is really easy to do. It's a relatively inexpensive product. And you just kind of keep working at it until you get to the solution you want. And you can hear the noise this makes when we're working on it. Like right there. So we're going to do probably half a panel at a time, maybe a little less, depending on how big the panel is. And you don't have to go crazy. It tends to be much worse in the vertical parts of the car. You can see right here, sometimes you hit trim, but that color, all that kind of gray on there, is garbage. It is junk that is embedded in this paint over time and years and sitting outside, and oxidation and all that stuff that just builds up on the surface of paint. And so you can come through with a little bit of elbow grease. You don't want to use a ton of pressure. Really, again, you want to kind of have it glide over the surface of the paint. But you can come through and kind of do all the upright surfaces. I also tend to find, and you can see we're picking up a little of that trim there, that rubber. That's not the end of the world though. So once that gets soiled, you just roll it over and you can just keep working at it till it's rolled over. And then what you do is you just come through here, nice clean dry microfiber, and just wipe it down. So you're gonna come through and just wipe that whole panel down. You don't need to really worry about washing it again. You're probably gonna rinse it off at minimum before you go do much more detailing work anyways. But just kind of important to mention, it's helpful to just get that kind of residue off the vehicle. But you'll notice here now, the noise involved when you rub your hand on this, very different than what's going on up here on the hood. So we'll get to the hood here. We'll get to a few other spots. I always really like to focus when you see one of these vehicles, it's a little bit older, the vertical surfaces, so spaces like right here, then also some of these areas along the side of the vehicle. And you can actually see some rail dusting in it. You can use a decon product like an Iron X or similar, or you can come in with a clay bar and try to, work it a little bit with the clay. So we'll just hit this one little area down here at the bottom. I think this is probably the worst area, maybe a little bit right up there. I don't think we need to do the whole door panel. Sometimes you can see if you got like maybe a little sap or something like that, it's helpful to come in and do it, but we got a little contaminant there. Sometimes the clay won't remove it on the first pass. That's something to think about too. Sometimes you got like some embedded tree sap, you can just use your thumbnail on it. But we'll just come through here and work this little area real quick. You can see you're not getting a lot of damage or noise out of it, so that's good. So that area wasn't too bad. We had a little, looks like a little pine sap right there. You can always peel stuff out of the clay too if you see contaminants in the clay itself. But we'll just come through here and try to remove some of that rail dusting, some of that dirt and garbage that's really stuck to particularly the lower sides of the car. You know, this is where the worst is going to be. A lot of times actually in this stretch of car, I'll use an older piece of clay I don't care about as much, just because by the time you're said and done here, oftentimes this stuff is going to be junked. So, all right, let's take a look at that clay after doing that one panel. Yeah, check that out. That is 200,000 miles and 20 years of having never been fully decontaminated as a paint. So again, you just kind of work at the clay, try to keep it a little warmer. If it starts getting cold and dry, you got a little warm water here. Work it with the warm water. That's kind of the perk to doing that, especially when your weather is, you know, here in the Midwest, it's getting into fall and it's not super warm. So we can come in now and just wipe that clean. I'm not mega concerned about scratches and swirl marks, largely because at the end of the day, we are going to be polishing the vehicle. So this is a step to use before you polish, and then you come back later and more thoroughly polish the vehicle with an actual wheel. So I did notice there's a little spot of kind of tree sap right there, and this can be a spot fix. You can just come in and just work that one little spot, and that can be gone now. So that's kind of a top tip for working on clay bar. Not a particularly expensive product, relatively easy to use. But just understand what you're doing here is you're removing any protection from the vehicle that was on it. So this is not something you would do to like a ceramic coated car. It's not something you would do to a car that you've got a lot of coating on or a lot of work on. So, you know, the S2000 here has been waxed 100 times and it's super clean and all that nice stuff associated with that. You wouldn't really use a clay bar on it unless you had some sort of contamination issue that was unexpected. So this can be a really effective tool to use when you've got a pretty dirty older vehicle that just needs some decontamination. I don't think we're going to clay the whole thing. We'll probably do the hood, we'll do the tailgate, we'll come through here and we'll do some of the lower panels in the vehicle, maybe some of this part of the vehicle that, you know, sadly just accumulates a lot of dirt, debris, garbage as you drive down the road. So we'll keep at it here, and this is just one step. Probably take 20 minutes here by the time we're all in on the vehicle to just go through and do this in a few different areas and just make sure that the vehicle is really fully prepped for a polish. You don't want to be pulling a lot of this gunk and garbage out of your polishing pad. It will pick up, it will contaminate that pad, and then suddenly you're wasting your time trying to polish. So yeah, what would happen is if you came in with a polisher right now, you'd be abrading this dirt off the surface, you know, mechanically rather than lifting it off with clay, which is still a mechanical process, but probably a little less violent. And then in turn, you're not